Gift of the Givers, which is preparing a bigger humanitarian intervention with diverse supplies. The event that the passage of goods are permitted through the Rafah border. Let's get more information on this as we're joined by Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman from Gift of the Givers. Dr. Sooliman, a pleasure to have you on the program despite the circumstances. Now, Gift of the Givers has been actively involved in providing humanitarian aid in Gaza, I believe, since 2014. How's the current conflict, which has been described as a total massacre, compared to previous crises in the region?
Good afternoon. Yes, we've been there since 2014. Well, they've killed more people in 6 days than they did in 51 days in 2014. You know, they talk about worrying about children and women. They deliberately target women and children. We've seen it. We've been in the war in 2009. We've been there in 2014. I've got the teams inside Gaza itself committed to help people, though they themselves are in real serious difficulty because they have to watch where they put their families. There's no such thing as a safe place in Gaza. They've shot down, they've hit 15 hospitals. They just hit a cancer hospital yesterday where people need care. Those hospitals are deliberately targeted. They flatten civilian structures, apartments. They kill a family of 27 in one area. Women and children have been bombed in many areas. More than half the people killed there are women and children. There is no water. The water has been cut. Electricity has been cut. Patients on life support cannot survive. You can't get enough medicines into the country itself because of the blockade. They're shooting them from the sea and from the air. You know, and now the ground invasion is expected. White phosphorus, banned substance, is used in Gaza. We've got videos to prove it. Our teams have seen it. They got the smell of the phosphorus around the schools. 48 schools are targeted, all civilian facilities. So it's intense. It's far more intense. This is a pure genocide and a massacre. The amount of kids that are coming in, there's absolutely no mercy. When you think of a monster, this is a monster, attacking innocent people and targeting civilians in a huge way. But it's nothing new. They do this all the time. So, you know, it's like a sad story saying what's happening to them. They've been attacking children and women for a long time. My teams have found it very difficult to move around. But in spite of that, we've managed to purchase supplies for hospitals, providing medicines, whatever medical equipment is available, getting even simple things like hygiene packs and clothing. For people, once they bomb, they come from the bomb site directly to the hospital without any accessories, even providing wheelchairs. Then those that are hungry, we've given them vouchers. We've got relationships with all the business houses throughout the country because we're there for 9 years. They know us, we pay, you know, we keep to our promises. They're purchasing items for themselves. We provided food parcels for the elderly and infirm, those that can't walk, moving to their homes. But I mean, there's no home. It's just a broken concrete place that you're taking into. And we provided hospitals for the kids in the different UN camps. And of course, our desalination plants, we got stopped working once the electricity was cut off. So we've connected generators to them. But of course, the fuel supply is not going to last forever. And we're providing water. So that's what we're doing at the moment inside Gaza. And we're doing that, you know, from the first day. But as you mentioned, we've been there for 9 years. And we do a lot of other things in the last 9 years.
So you describe the situation or the devastation as nothing new for the region. And the situation on the ground you've described as very horrific with the significant civilian casualties. Can you shed a bit more insight into the kind of challenges your team has been facing? You've already started doing so. And while also delivering aid amid this ongoing violence and destruction there.
Yes, you know, you can't move around them. When you tell them, you know, and I can't be too hard on them because, I mean, they live in anxiety. And you tell them, look, move around. They said 80% of the roads are gone. They bombed. You can't move on the roads. They're finished. We can't get to the hospitals because they're bombing the hospitals deliberately. They've knocked out 28 ambulances. They even striking ambulances while you're trying to treat the patients inside the ambulance. You know, and you see the mayhem caused by that. And there's huge difficulty. So moving around is very, very complicated. Then they can't send us messages because the internet is cut off. But they found a way around that too. They told me we'll have some more information for you this evening. That is a challenge. And of course, the biggest challenge is the absence of fuel, electricity, and water. They're managing to cope around that. But the other big challenge they had was when they were given 24 hours notice to move 1.1 million people. I mean, that's totally illogical. First of all, cars have been bombed, so there's not enough cars. How are you going to move that amount of people from the north to the south in 24 hours? Then there's no fuel. And then, of course, whilst they were moving before the 24 hours, they started targeting them. You know, the lambs to the slaughter. put on the road, easy to see, and then target them deliberately. And that's what they did. And this is something that they always do. It's nothing new. It's always been covered by the international media. It always lies for them, and has deception covered up, and always because they're driven by the same money. So the lies are always there. But the truth has been exposed more and more with each day. Then the people who started going to the south decided, you know what, there's no point. We'd rather go back, rather live here, and we'd rather die here. There's no point. My teams, as an extension, I've asked them to start looking for additional personnel, more manpower, more networks, because I've told them, I have to tell them quite bluntly, the chances is that they can get killed too. And if they get killed, I can't have the system stopping. So we need to continue distribution. We need to have networks. They said, we've thought about it. We've done that already. We know we may die, but the service to the people cannot be stopped. So we will continue, and those that we work with will continue.
So the conflict has resulted in the destruction of hospitals and ambulances, also other critical infrastructure, making medical assistance critical in this regard. How is Gift of the Givers addressing the immediate medical needs of the affected population?
It's not adequate what we're doing. Totally inadequate what we're doing. You don't have medical teams inside there, and you can't get teams inside there. It's very difficult. All we can offer is if the world, puts its mouth where it's supposed to and be humane in its approach, if some borders are open, we'll fly medical teams to assist, relieve the burden. They can't cope. I mean, there's 9,000 injured people with various degrees of severity. The doctors have been killed, and there's hundreds of years of experience gone. So many doctors and healthcare workers are killed. So that experience is gone. So you don't have the doctors, you don't have the hospital, you don't have the beds, you don't have the electricity, you don't have the equipment, you don't have the consumables, you don't have the medicines, you don't have enough staff to take care of the patients, you have emotional, psychological, and mental pressure on all those medical staff and the patients itself. It's a huge crisis. And the only way to solve that is to take medical teams to take off the pressure, who can think clearly, who are fresh, and who can handle hundreds of patients at the same time. We can do that. But we need the border to be open, and I'm busy engaging DERCO, the Egyptian embassy, and different government departments and different ambassadors to see what's possible. And even if some of them are brought to the border on the outside, our medical teams are prepared to go there, and some of the outside, but with the aim of getting inside if there's a means to getting in and serving those people.
Now, the targeting of essential infrastructure, such as the schools and hospitals, like you've mentioned, is quite alarming. How does Gift of the Givers then navigate the challenges of providing aid in an environment where crucial facilities are being deliberately hit here?
Well, it's not a new experience to us. We've been doing this since 2009. And it's not so much about us on the outside. It's more about those on the inside. They've learned, the populations have learned, And, it's a very fatalistic attitude. The bombs are going to come. Either we move out, or we're going to get struck. We're going to die here. So they've accepted their lot, that the world has deserted them, that when the bombs come, they've got nowhere to go. They will die, and that's something just very acceptable in the area itself. When you tell them the food is going to cut off, they say it's nothing new. There's a blockade on us since 2008, so what's new? We will survive on our olives. That's what they tell you. So, yes, the teams, they adapt at finding routes of getting from site to site, of delivering, but it's not easy. This is a war situation when your roads are knocked out, when the bombs are throwing all over. It's very difficult. It's huge, huge risk. But because it's their own people, and because they've lived through it many times before, and because they know they have to do whatever they can, like the doctors, when they were told you're going to move from the north to the south, that's another ridiculous suggestion. They're going to move critically ill patients who will die to move them. So the doctor said, we're not moving anywhere. Do what you want. We're going to stay here, and we're going to treat the patients. If we have to die, we will die with them. That is the spirit of the people. And the same spirit my staff have to deliver. We can't get to all the areas. Let's be open and realistic. We can't get to everybody. We can't help everybody. We can't get to all places. We do what we can and help who we can, where we can, but at great risk to the teams and the people. Sometimes when you're delivering to the people, the bombs come while you're trying to serve them.
So the teams are your eyes and ears on the ground. But Dr. Sooliman, you've mentioned this difficulty in moving through the streets due to the destruction and the restrictions there. How does Gift of the Givers then ensure the safety of its team members while carrying out relief operations in such a volatile environment?
There is no security. There is no safety. It's risk. and they do it because it's their own people. Well, it's not only the Palestinians. Anybody will do it for their own nations. We've got teams in Syria. I mean, those hospital doctors are probably the most well-trained doctors in the world. They belong to the hospital that we've set up. And I've asked them many times, why don't you leave? You'll get great jobs anywhere in the world, the experience you have. And they say, who will take care of our people? We cannot leave here. They're at risk for their families and their children. The bombs just were coming during the war. They refuse to move. It's the same kind of commitment. It's a commitment of faith. It's a commitment of humanity, and it's a commitment of patriotism to serve your people because there's nobody else to serve them. What the broad knowledge or the realistic knowledge that you could die in the process, that doesn't deter them. And that's why they send so strongly to support each other.
Continue with our discussion with Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, founder of Gift of the Givers, to give us some insight into what their teams have heard on the ground that's in Gaza. Now, Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, the threat to trucks bringing food from Egypt adds another layer of complexity in this region. How does Gift of the Givers then overcome these logistical challenges to ensure a consistent and secure flow of essential supplies into Gaza? Judging by what you've said so far, it sounds almost impossible.
It is impossible. Right now, it's impossible. Nothing can go from the Jordanian border. They've been threatened by Israel. They talk about humanity, but they don't understand humanity. They are threatened the same to the Egyptian borders. So trucks, there's convoys of trucks waiting on the border on Egypt. Right now, there's others of them. And the point to come in is from Al-Arish, the airport. The Egyptian ambassador and the Jordanian ambassador both said, we can't send anything in. It's stuck. We can't go through. So the only way to solve the problem is if the world body, United Nations, Security Council, and others, then make it mandatory to open a safe corridor where they will not get bombed like it's promised and they still get bombed, to create a safe corridor for trucks to come in. Then it doesn't matter whether it's our truck or somebody else's truck or whoever's truck, as long as it gets in. And that's the only way it's going to happen. There's no other way it's going to happen. It's going to be a futile exercise because they've already struck trucks. We've got pictures of 8 convoys were hit inside Gaza itself already. So it becomes a risk because there's commercial factors involved. Because companies don't allow their drivers and the trucks to go in because of high insurance in a war zone. So what actually happens then is a truck from Egypt would then come to the Rafah side, in that case the Rafah border. They would offload everything and reload on a truck on the Rafah side to take things inside Gaza. It's a very long, slow process. But that's the only other way it can be done. But in terms of delivering, it requires total security corridor to make it happen. Otherwise, it will not happen.
Now, given the scale of the crisis, how important is it for international collaboration? It's a point you touched on a bit earlier, and also the support in addressing the immediate needs of the affected population, and also importantly, rebuilding efforts in the long term.
That poor country is always rebuilding. It never ends. They've been bombed so many times, and the infrastructure bombing is absolutely deliberate. It's all concrete buildings. It takes a long time to set them up. They're going to need billions upon billions of dollars just to put back the infrastructure in terms of houses, all the hospitals, all the schools, the roads, the water plants, electricity, and what about all the injured people, the care, start the businesses, start the economy, get goods in, fix the roads. And of course, the biggest challenge is going to be PTSD, the psychological and emotional trauma experienced by little children. It's going to take years of treatment for that. And what about the medical care and the population? This money is not going to solve the problem. Yes, money is required. It's going to require intensive support from skilled therapists from all over to take them through years of mental and physical support. People are going to need artificial limbs. They're going to need wheelchairs. They're going to need physiotherapy, rehabilitation, spinal rehab. It's a range of things they're going to do. It's going to take a very long time. It's not like they haven't been through it before, as I've mentioned repeatedly. But the support, the world, the countries need to come. But more than anything, they need to stop the war immediately. So that the process gets faster and the loss of lives is diminished, although it's such a huge loss of life already. But the faster we get into the process, the better it's going to be.
So the conflict has also taken a toll on water and electricity supply in the region, affecting millions. How is Gift of the Givers then working to try provide sustainable solutions to meet these basic needs amid the destruction of infrastructure?
We can't. It's not an NGO responsibility. We have our own desalination plants there, but they can't work without electricity. And I mentioned earlier we connected generators to them, but there's a fuel shortage. So you need a continuous supply of fuel. You need somebody to start the electricity again, and then Gaza has always had a shortage of water. So it's always dependent on desalination plants, and there's many like that all over the country. Over the years, lots of people have put in desalination plants. We deliver close to water to close to 40 or 50,000 people a day under normal circumstances. What the three desalination plants we have and the trucks that are associated with it. But we're not the only ones. It's everybody who's done that inside Gaza. That's the only way to survive. So you need the fuel back. You need the electricity back. You need generators. And of course, you need trucks. If the trucks are bombed, then you don't have the truck to get in the water. So it's all those kind of issues. And then, of course, now you need additional manpower because somebody has been killed in the process.
Let's continue with this last theme you make about you setting up, or the organization setting up, desalination plants to provide water there. Could you elaborate a bit further on the impact of this initiative and also the challenges in ensuring sufficient water supply for this population?
The desalination plants are of different sizes. They could cost anything from $15,000 to $100,000 or more. Depends where you set them up, and because the country is congested, 2.3 million people, you have to spread them out to make sure that everybody from the north to the south and the west to the east gets it. We've put up 3, it's not enough. But the reason we haven't put in more because other people have put up desalination plants in different areas. It may be in the city center of a city where you just go outside the shop and people come and collect water with their 5-liter containers. And at the same time, whilst they're doing that, you have water tankers which you fill from the desalination plants. And then they go to the hospital and they go to the schools and they go to people that are old and can't walk and can't move around. Not only us, other people do the same thing. And predominantly we go to the schools because we don't want to lose teaching time. Kids can't go into a desalination plant, they should be studying or learning. So we do that. And right now, of course, more plants are going to be needed. It's, again, drilling it, they do that very, very well. And it's going to cost anything from $100,000 or more for the plant itself. And the other part we haven't spoke about too much is the fact that, if patients come or populations come on the Rafah border, we're prepared to support them there, and even the medical teams. I've just put a message out to my medical teams, and the response is huge. Yeah. They're all ready to go. If a guaranteed corridor can be created for them, while they serve on the Rafah border, and the numbers are going to increase. South Africans want to make a difference.
You spoke about the impact that this is having on children in that particular region. Now, the destruction of schools not only disrupts education, but also poses challenges for the affected children, as you've mentioned. How is Gift of the Givers addressing this immediate need of children in terms of education and maybe even psychosocial support?
We have our own Women and Child Care Center. It's a building we put up, many years ago. And inside there, you have psychologists, you have counseling services, you have a preschool, you have programs for women, you have entrepreneurship, you have a place where people come to collect their food parcels, we help widows, we help the elderly. But it's only one side of Gaza. It doesn't cover the entire country. You need many more. There are 1 or 2 more like that. But many more will be required now, especially after this war, where it's not only about death. Look, they die all the time. I'm just going to be blunt. They die all the time because they get bombed all the time. But the amount of bombs that have been thrown, on them in 6 days is more than what was used in the Gulf War. So you can understand the frequency or the intensity, the horrific nature of these bombs coming so rapidly in such intensity, and so many coming so quickly in 6 days. It's a huge effect on women and children and the whole population. So yes, any sound they hear, they're going to jump. Or close the car door, they're going to get excited. Exhaust, backfire, it's going to be a problem. It's going to take years of counseling for the children. You can see the videos that come out, how they scream in the house when somebody next door is hit, or the room of the house itself is hit. Those are the video footage the media doesn't show the world because it's all been concealed, and it's coming out through social media from the people itself. This is not a story. My teams are inside. We're not in the habit of lying and making stories. we see, even if cross-check, sometimes the footage doesn't look correct, we ask them, and they will verify. We kept on asking, was there white phosphorus used? And they said, yes. Are you sure? Yes. Did you see it? Yes. Have you been past it? Yes. We got the smell of the phosphorus at the school. Yes, it's used. And it's confirmed by many people. So whatever we do, we verify and we check with our teams and others that we know inside before we announce it.
Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, as we wrap up our conversation, and in the face of such adversity, how do you see the role of humanitarian organizations such as yours promoting peace and also providing relief for the people of Gaza?
Well, we do this all the time. We provide relief. We've been doing it for 31 years. And, peace has to be brought out by the powers itself. We're not in that department. We need people to have a more even hand. Governments to understand the crisis of people, not to be one-sided and blind-sided, and be prejudiced. Unfortunately, people have been killed on both sides of the conflict, and civilians have died on both sides. War benefits nobody. If people haven't realized this by now, there's something seriously wrong with the psyche. There is no winner in any war. Whether it's an internal conflict, an external conflict, tribal wars, there are no winners. You may win the battle, but you always lose the war. The pain, the hardship, the suffering, the anger, the vengeance, this doesn't go away. It's time the world sits together, not only in this conflict, but for all conflicts, to sit together and say, there has to be another way to solve problems. Fighting, shooting, killing doesn't solve anything. Humanity, discussion, diplomacy, and making compromise the way to solve the problem.
That was Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman from The Gift of the Givers, painting a really grim picture of what his team has observed in Gaza, but also giving us a bit more insight onto the humanitarian effort and also providing some relief to the people affected by the